few weeks ago, I did a video talking about blue chip recruits who ended up at smaller programs. You guys seem to really like the video, so we're going to go ahead and do a part 2 today. I've come up with 8 more big time recruits who are now playing lower level football, and some of them have been good and some of them have been busts. But before we can get started with the video, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about 8 big time recruits who are now at smaller schools. The first player I want to talk about in today's video is a player by the name of Popeye Williams. Going back in time, Popeye was a 4-star recruit, the number 17 edge rusher, and the 180th best player in the class of 2022. Popeye would end up going to Westfield High School in Indiana, the same school that produced Dylan Thieneman, the superstar player for the Oregon Ducks. While he was at Westfield High School, he ended up finishing with 90 tackles, 20.5 tackles, and 7 sacks during his senior season. The guy was pretty much incredible throughout his entire career at Westfield and had offers from pretty much every school in the country, including Arkansas, Kentucky, Michigan State, Nebraska, Penn State, Purdue, and Tennessee. Popeye would end up choosing to play for Jeff Brom and Louisville though, and the 4-star recruit was given considerable amount of hype when he suited up for the Cards. During his freshman season in 2022, Popeye would finish with 3 total tackles, and that was all he did. He followed a former Louisville assistant over to Western Michigan, where he would finally suit up for the Broncos during the 2024 season. Last year, he ended up finishing with 19 total tackles and 1 sack, but so far in 2025, Popeye has not been able to do much. He only has 1 tackle, Western Michigan football isn't very good, and sadly, through 4 years, Popeye Williams never lived up to his 4-star status. The second blue chip recruit I want to talk about is Gavin Wimsatt. According to 24/7 Sports, Wimsatt was the number 23 quarterback, a 4-star recruit, and the 205th best player in the class of 2021. Wimsatt has a very interesting story, as at one point he was considered a 5-star recruit and was originally part of the class of 2022. He came out of Owensboro High School in Kentucky, which is not really known for producing big-time players, but as a sophomore, he threw for 2,800 yards and 31 touchdowns, and also ran for 12 more on the ground. He decided to commit to Rutgers instead of Kentucky, and this caused a big ruckus in the state, as many Wildcat fans were upset that they didn't get their hands on Wimsatt. He would decide to reclassify for the 2021 season, and I think played in 1 game in 2021. He then started a couple of games in 2022 before having his best season in 2023. He finished with 1,800 yards and 9 touchdowns, but had an absurd high 8 interceptions. He also was decent on the ground though, as he had 500 yards and 11 touchdowns, and ahead of the 2024 season, he would transfer back home to Kentucky to battle it out with Georgia transfer Brock Vandegrift for the starting job. Unfortunately, when Wimsatt got on the field, it wasn't all that great, as he finished with 287 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 4 picks. Wimsatt was not able to really get things going, and he decided to transfer one more time for the 2025 season, and he is now at Jacksonville State. Through the first few games of the season, Wimsatt has thrown for about 600 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he also has 4 more scores on the ground. Wimsatt has been okay, but he's never lived up to being a blue chip recruit. I think he should have never reclassified, and he should have never went to Rutgers. That's my 2 cents on it. But after being a big-time player, he's now at Jacksonville State. Our third blue chip recruit that I want to talk about is JJ Harrell. According to 24/7 Sports, JJ was a 4-star recruit, the number 36 wide receiver, and the 217th best player in the class of 2024. Coming out of North Panola High School in the state of Mississippi, JJ Harrell was one of those guys that was wanted by every player in the country. He finished with 41 catches for 987 yards and 18 touchdowns as a senior, and would decide to originally commit to Tennessee. After dealing with an injury, Harrell would decide to reopen his recruitment and eventually chose the Mississippi State Bulldogs. His parents were die-hard Mississippi State fans, and this was a huge get for the Bulldog. He'd end up at Mississippi State for the 2024 season, and he came in alongside Mario Craver. Unfortunately, both of these guys ended up getting into a bit of trouble, as Harrell ended up being arrested during his freshman season at one point, and would actually never have a single catch. Since then, it has been a bit of a whirlwind, as he originally committed to transfer to Arkansas State, but it looks like he's now at Holmes Community College. I can't really find much information about all this, but either way, JJ Harrell was originally a big-time recruit at Mississippi State, and now I have no clue what he's really doing, and he'll have to save himself at either the JUCO level or at the Sunbelt level. For our fourth guy, we need to talk about Mabrey Mettauer. He's a player I've actually talked about on the channel a long time ago, as at one point early on in his high school career, he looked like the next Trevor Lawrence. He's considered a 5-star recruit at one point, but ultimately, after coming out of the Woodlands, Texas, would end up as the number 31 quarterback, a 4-star player, 462nd overall recruit in the class of 2024. I mean, I remember everybody talking about Mabrey at one point, as during his junior season, he passed for 2,600 yards and 32 touchdowns, and also ran for 613 yards and 9 more touchdowns. He ended up holding 24 total offers and would eventually commit to Wisconsin over North Carolina and Kansas State because he wanted to play for Phil Longo. Unfortunately, we sort of found out Mabrey was not made for the Power 4 level, as in 2024, despite having one of the worst quarterback rooms in the entire country, Mabrey only completed 1 pass for 2 yards. Longo then ended up at Sam Houston State, and Mabrey also decided to go there after both Danny O'Neal and Billy Edwards transferred in. So far in 2025, Mabrey has actually thrown for 199 yards with 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, and he's also been able to use his legs a bit. The Bearcats are currently 0-5, and while Mabrey played in the first 2 games, he was later benched, and I'm not sure when he's going to play again. For a guy who was compared to Trevor Lawrence and was a 4-star recruit, he's had a bit of a fall off at Sam Houston State now. The 5th guy I want to talk about today is Shawn Dollars. Going back in time, Shawn Dollars was listed as a 4-star recruit, the number 2 all-purpose back, and the 144th best player in the class of 2019. That was quite some time ago. He ended up going to Mabrey High School, which is located in California, and he was seen as one of the next big players. But he sort of had an interesting high school career, as he originally went to Rancho Cucamonga High School, and while he was there, he became one of the top athletes before transferring to Mabrey for his final season. He had over 1,200 all-purpose yards and 13 total touchdowns as a senior, and because of that, he got offers from schools like Oregon, Georgia, LSU, Florida State, and even USC. He could go pretty much anywhere he wanted to, and Dollars decided to commit to the Oregon Duck. They had a nice string of developing big-time running back, and he was just the next guy in line. In 2019 as a freshman, he ended up having 81 yards, and he followed it up with 47 yards in 2020. He would then have his best season in an Oregon uniform, rushing for about 200 yards and a touchdown in 2022, before he would elect to transfer. He would head down to the Group of 5 level and transfer over to the Nevada Wolfpack. He would take over as one of their starting running backs. He ran the ball 151 times for 527 yards and 6 total touchdowns. He was starting to make a career for himself, but then in 2024, it was definitely somewhat of a letdown, as he only had 165 yards without a single touchdown. He straight up just got passed on the depth chart, and for his career, Dollars ended up with 1,000 yards and 7 total touchdowns. Player number 6 is a kid by the name of Sam McCall. Going back in time, Sam McCall was listed as the number 4 safety, a 4-star recruit, and the 48th best player in the class of 2022. He ended up going to Lake Gibson High School, which was located in Lakeland, Florida, and McCall was extremely hyped up. He ran track, played basketball, played football, and even dabbled in baseball. The guy was just an insane athlete, as he ended up catching 52 passes for 900 yards and 10 touchdowns, while also having 18 tackles and 4 interceptions on defense. He had the kind of speed that would help out a big-time college football program, and he decided to commit to Florida State. McCall was getting a lot of hype early on in his career, but things didn't exactly work out for him. By late November, he was no longer on the team and was going into the portal. He was on special teams and on defense, and even forced a fumble for the Noles. Fortunately, things did not work out for him, and he decided to transfer to Texas A&M for the 2023 season. While he was there, things didn't really change all that much, as this time he only had 6 total tackles with 1 pass deflection, and after it was all said and done, he decided to hang it up at A&M and transfer down to the Group of 5 level, and ended up at Georgia State. Now he has played 2 seasons for them, and in total, he has 4 tackles and 1 pass deflection. Things have just not gone according to plan for Sam McCall, and I have no clue why. He's an insane athlete, and I don't believe there's really been any injuries. Who knows, but McCall did not end up panning out. Our second to last guy is going to be a player by the name of Trayanum. I've been hearing about him for quite some time, as coming in of Archbishop Hoban High School in Akron, Chip was part of the class of 2020, was listed as a 4-star recruit, the number 23 running back, and the 295th overall player in the class of 2020. Trayanum finished with 60 tackles, 8 sacks, and 5 forced fumbles as a junior, and as I said, he arrived at Arizona State, where he ran for 290 yards and 4 touchdowns as a freshman, and then 400 yards and 6 touchdowns as a sophomore. He decided to transfer to Ohio State ahead of the 2022 season, where eventually he was going to play linebacker. But he ended up actually playing a little bit of offense too, as he combined for about 500 yards and 3 touchdowns in a Buckeyes uniform. Ahead of the 2024 season, Trayanum would then transfer over to Kentucky to try to be the main running back, but that didn't work out. He had about 100 yards, and then this past offseason, he made one more transfer, this time playing for the Toledo Rockets. So far, halfway through the season, Trayanum has been one of the better running backs in college football, as he has 476 yards and 6 total touchdowns. He could be the best running back in the MAC this year, and is actually a case of a player who has saved his career by going down a level. He probably deserves his own video here at some point, but Chip Trayanum was a big-time recruit who's now at a smaller school. Last but not least, we have Dematrius Davis. He was a big-time player coming out of high school, as according to 24/7 Sports, Davis was a 4-star recruit, the number 25 quarterback, and the 229th best player in the class of 2021. Davis ended up going to the prestigious North Shore High School, and while he was there, he passed for 2,500 yards and 30 touchdowns, while also rushing for 14 more on the ground. He led North Shore to a 15-1 record in a state championship and decided to commit to Auburn. The Tigers were getting a big-time player in Davis, but unfortunately, he was never able to pan out while he was there. He literally never played in a single game for Auburn, and then ahead of the 2022 season, he would transfer to Alabama State. He went down a level, but ended up putting up decent numbers, as he passed for 1,600 yards and 10 total touchdowns through the air, and also had about 400 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Ahead of the 2024 season, he would transfer back up, as he would go to UTSA. He never ended up completing a single pass for the Roadrunners, and I have no clue if he's still playing college football or not. He should have a year of eligibility remaining, but I'm not sure. But yeah, today we talked about 8 players who went from big-time recruits to being at small schools, and what do you guys think? What went wrong for some of these guys? Who's a player I should put in part 3? And what other topics should I do next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.